All right, today we're going to talk about one of the most incredible rulers in history, Queen Elizabeth I. Now, her story is just wild. I mean, think about it. How does a princess who was basically forgotten, even thrown in prison, end up becoming one of the most powerful queens ever? Seriously, how did she pull that off? Let's get into it. So, to really get who Elizabeth was, you've got to look at her childhood. And let me tell you, it was no fairy tale. It was more like a crash course in how to survive. It's just unbelievable how fast her world turned upside down. One minute, she's a princess born to the king. The next, she's only 2 years old, and her own mother, Anne Boleyn, is executed. And then bam, Elizabeth is declared illegitimate. Her royal title, gone. Fast forward a bit, and her half-sister Mary is on the throne. Where does Elizabeth end up? In the Tower of London, accused of treason. But you know what? All of that hardship, it didn't break her. It actually made her super smart and incredibly careful. And those were the exact skills she needed when she finally, against all odds, became queen at 25. Okay, so Elizabeth finally becomes queen. The problem? England was a total disaster. Her first big challenge was figuring out how to deal with a country that was basically at war with itself. And the whole fight was about religion. So the core of this whole mess was the fight between Protestants and Catholics. The best way to think about it is like two super intense rival sports teams. They both followed the same sport, Christianity, but they have totally different rule books on how to play. And this wasn't just some friendly rivalry. People were literally being killed over their beliefs. The whole country was on the verge of a full-blown civil war.
Elizabeth was smart. She knew if she just picked a side, the country would explode. So she came up with this genius plan called the Middle Way. Here's how it worked. Officially, the Church of England would be Protestant. That made one side happy. But, and this is the clever part, she let them keep some of the old Catholic traditions. You know, things like priests wearing fancy robes. It was a compromise designed to make just enough people on both sides feel comfortable and hopefully stop a civil war.
And this really all comes down to one of her most famous quotes. She said she wouldn't make windows into men's souls. What does that even mean? Well, basically she was saying, look, I don't care what you truly believe in your head or in your home. Just show up, be loyal to me in public, and follow the basic rules. What you do in private, that's your business. For that era, that was a huge deal. Super practical. All right, so she's managed to cool things down at home. But that doesn't mean she could relax. Not even close. Her next big problem? She was completely surrounded by enemies. Not just scheming nobles at home, but powerful countries that wanted her gone. You really have to picture Elizabeth playing this incredibly dangerous game of international chess. On one side of the board, you've got Philip II of Spain, maybe the most powerful king in all of Europe, and he desperately wanted England to be Catholic again. Then there's France, another major rival, and the most dangerous piece of all, her own cousin, Mary, Queen of Scots. A lot of Catholics thought she was the rightful queen. Elizabeth's genius was playing them all against each other, dangling the possibility of marriage to one to keep another one in check, but never actually saying, I do. And that threat from Mary, Queen of Scots, it all came to a boiling point with something called the Babington Plot. It sounds like something out of a movie. Elizabeth's spy master discovered secret letters written in code that proved Mary was in on a plot to assassinate Elizabeth. I mean, can you imagine? After holding Mary prisoner for almost 20 years, Elizabeth was backed into a corner. She really had no other option. She signed the death warrant, and in 1587, Mary was executed.
Executing Mary was the final straw for King Philip of Spain. He was furious. So in 1588, he launched the Spanish Armada. We're talking a massive fleet, 130 ships strong, with one goal: invade England, overthrow Elizabeth, and make the country Catholic again. This was it, the ultimate showdown. So, how on earth did England win against this giant force? Well, it was a mix of brilliant strategy and a little bit of luck. First, England's ships were smaller and way faster. They could literally run circles around the big, clumsy Spanish galleons. Then, they used this terrifying tactic. They took old ships, set them completely on fire, and sailed them right into the middle of the Spanish fleet. It caused total chaos and broke the Armada's tight formation. And as if that wasn't enough, as the Spanish were trying to retreat, a massive storm hit. The English called it the Protestant wind, and it just wrecked what was left of the Armada. After defeating the Armada, everything changed. It was like the whole country took a deep breath and felt this new wave of confidence. This victory kicked off a period of wealth and creativity that we now call England's Golden Age. All of a sudden, England started looking beyond its own shores.
You had adventurers like Sir Francis Drake becoming national celebrities for sailing around the entire world. Sir Walter Raleigh was trying to set up colonies in North America. And it wasn't just for fun. This was big business. The East India Company was created, which basically set the stage for England as a global trading superpower. And back home, people started seeing new and exotic things for the first time, like potatoes and tobacco.
This new national pride also led to this amazing boom in arts and culture. I mean, this is the time of William Shakespeare, writing some of the most famous plays ever, like Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet. And for the very first time, they started building permanent theaters, like the famous Globe Theater. What's so cool is that everyone went. Rich, poor, it didn't matter. It was entertainment for the masses. It was a total cultural revolution.
But of course, nothing lasts forever. As Elizabeth got older, one big question mark hung over the entire country. What happens when she's gone? Who's going to take over? This is where her famous nickname, the Virgin Queen, comes from. She never got married and never had any kids. And this wasn't by accident. It was a calculated political move. See, if she married a foreign prince, his country might start calling the shots in England. But if she married an English noble, it would create all sorts of jealousy and chaos among the other powerful families. So she brilliantly framed it by saying she was married to the nation of England. It was her way of saying, I'm in charge and I'm not sharing my power with anyone. So in 1603, after 44 long years as queen, which is an incredible amount of time back then, Elizabeth died at the age of 69. And since she had no children, that was it for the famous Tudor dynasty. But because she was such a smart ruler, her government had a plan in place. The crown passed peacefully to her cousin, James VI of Scotland, who then became King James I of England. This was huge because it united the crowns of England and Scotland for the very first time. When you step back and look at it all, her legacy is just massive. Think about what she started with, a country that was broke, divided, and about to fall apart. And what did she leave behind? A strong, confident, and much more unified nation. She navigated the religious minefield, took down the most powerful navy in the world, and kicked off an unforgettable age of culture and exploration. She built this incredible, powerful nation, but she also ended her family's dynasty, leaving the future to a cousin from Scotland. So it leaves us with one last thing to think about. When you weigh everything, all the crises she averted, the enemies she defeated, the golden age she inspired, was she England's greatest monarch ever? What do you think?